And we're live. Welcome everybody to another sponsorship morning coffee. Really excited this morning. I know it's been a little bit of a delay, but as Nate will tell you, it's been crazy hectic in the sports world. But I have Nate Black, who works with Tampa Bay Lightning and Vinik Sport. Is it Vinik Sports Properties or just Vinik Sports Entertainment?
Vinik Sports Group.
Okay. My IMG Learfield brain was just kind of going toward that sports property piece. But thanks so much, Nate, for jumping on. Really appreciate it, especially since, today the Lightning are getting going on some exhibition games. So it's a busy day for you all.
This is the day we've all been waiting for. Hockey
Yep.
2.0.
Exactly. I'm really excited to have you on, especially just as we get kind of these restarts going. In sports, I think, we're just on new ground overall of how do we do this? We've never had to, do restarts. How have we been able to talk with our partners about this? But, kind of before I get into that, love asking this question, just your journey, to your current position and your journey into sponsorship overall.
Yeah, it's a good question. Whenever I get asked that question, I think my sports journey really starts back when I was a kid. I think about, my favorite video game ever was MVP Baseball 04 with Manny Ramirez on the cover. And for anybody who's played that, in that version of the game, there was a GM mode. And you could set from not just like pick your players in the draft, but like you got to design the ballpark, you got to name your team, pick the colors. You got to set the price of concession stands. And I remember as a kid, I was so geeked out on that part of the game. I didn't even play. I would sim through the actual games themselves and get into like the off season to do all the GM stuff and the operation side of things. And it's funny when I think back about it, that was my first, I guess, inkling that there was a whole other side to the sports business. So I've always, I look at that and kind of see where I've landed and kind of laugh today. I went to the University of Tampa, and they have a great sports management program there. And really, that's where I learned first about all the opportunities. I think for me, one of the guiding posts for me was try to do as much as you can. While I was in college, I had 4 or 5 different internships. Started out at a local college. I actually cold called about 20 local colleges when I was a sophomore in college. So I lived up in Massachusetts. Cold called 20 colleges to see if I could just do anything in the athletic department. Worked at Wellesley College in the athletic department during college. Worked with the Buccaneers. Worked with Ironman, which does those massive triathlons. Worked with Craft Sports Group, which is the umbrella company for the Patriots. And then landed with the Lightning my senior year of college. So I guess long-winded way of saying I tried everything, in different departments, different departments, different organizations to really find what I didn't like at first, so I could start crossing things off the bucket list of what I did, what I didn't, and then landed with the Lightning. Really found my my passion in sales and working with clients. So did ticket sales for a little bit right after I graduated from my internship, ticket sales, account management on the ticket side, and then moved over to the partnership side about just under 2 years ago. So that was over about a 7-year time span. Feels a lot longer though.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting how many people start off in tickets. I started off in tickets before I got to sponsorship. It's like, I guess it feels like that rite of passage position of, and I guess, thinking back, it totally makes sense. You're in front of your fans, you're understanding what they need, you're taking those phone calls when they're upset because there was, somebody next to them yelling the whole game and, cursing, and you're the person who has to make sure they're not going to, not renew their tickets. But it's just always interesting, just that sort of push into sports. It's usually ticketing, and it's usually hard ticket sales, cold calls, all of that.
Yeah, so I think it's I think like you said, a rite of passage. I also think if you're trying to get into the sports industry, it's the best place to start, no matter where you want to go, right? Because first and most importantly, when you're fresh out of college, you might not have the process or the routine down. And I think just being in sales teaches you have to have a process to be successful, and you have to follow steps and put things in an organized manner to actually produce. And then secondly, I've seen the value moving over to partnerships, right? Because I've worked hand in hand with our consumer, our product.
Mhm.
So you hear the on the grassroots level, right? You're working with the people who the partnerships affect. So that kind of allows you to look at it from a micro perspective when you're trying to put together these more macro partnerships to reach a general fan base, if you will.
Yeah, definitely. 100% agree with that. I mean, like, I wouldn't say ticketing sucks, just meaning that, like, I mean, you'll get a lot of no's. You're going to get, again, the accounts you do close, they're the first phone call that you make when, the coffee hut isn't open for whatever reason, and they're just extremely upset. But no, it's a great place to start and get your feet wet, even if you don't like it and it's not for you. Just the experience of it is clutch. Obviously, kind of moving forward, obviously in the NHL and, most seasons, the season was abruptly cut short. Obviously not getting too much into specifics for you all, but what was that process like? I mean, what was kind of the process with your sponsors and your organization when the next thing you went from, hey, we got about a month left in the season, we're getting renewals ready, we're getting ready to have those calls, to just, hey, we have no idea when hockey's coming back.
Yeah, so it's crazy to look back to early March and think about what that journey's been. Because I remember we were a few weeks out from having some renewal conversations already with our partners, and all of that got put on hold. I think the first thing was I didn't really believe like this was going to be a long sustaining situation we were in. I remember the first game we had canceled was against the Flyers, and I had a pretty big activation that was supposed to put together. And I was like, oh, we'll just move this out a few weeks and we'll pick back up. And then, I remember the whole Rudy Gobert situation. They canceled the game mid-game in Oklahoma City, and I was like, well, this is real, right? And I think for us, it was first just understanding where we were at, kind of taking from a partnership perspective, just seeing, first, really making sure that partners were all right on a one-to-one level. One thing I heard on a podcast I listened to recently was when all this happened, it wasn't B2C anymore. It wasn't B2B anymore. It was H to H, human to human. And I really, really dug in on that concept on leading with empathy and just understanding where our partners were at. From a business perspective is important, but more importantly, just from a person-to-person perspective. So just kind of understanding, where they're at with things, how they're doing, making sure they're okay. And then also, having our eye on, as this progressed through, how we could start delivering with, our product, for lack of a better term, we didn't have a product at the time. So I think our team has always done a good job of being in the digital and the social sphere. Our social team is great. Our digital team is great. So we had a lot of those pieces in place. And I would say our organization was already comfortable with getting partners integrated into both social and digital. So that made it a lot easier to start to transition some of our traditional partnership elements into the digital world. And then a lot of what we did too, and this is really a testament to our owner, Mr. Vinnick, was how can we affect change in the community, whether it's donating our money, our time. We put up together a PSA campaign on the payment protection plan to notify small businesses that this was a thing. So I would say we were kind of just looked at what we could do, how we could affect change, not just on a partnership level, but on a level for Tampa Bay to make sure everybody was doing all right and doing our best to put our best foot forward.
Yeah, I love that heart to heart. I mean, from what I've seen, just from all the clients we work with and just in the industry, the teams that came through and said, hey, I know you were about to do this renewal, but I fully get that everything has changed. Here's a new package I think is going to be better for you, but you don't have to let me know, let me know when you're ready. I'm here to help. Even to today, I think back I won't say which gym, but I went to go cancel my gym membership. They, online, their orders didn't go through. So I had to call again. Not only did they not refund my money for that time, but they also charged me a $50 cancellation fee. I will never go back to that gym again. And it's amazing how, it was like I paid $50 maybe for the whole shebang, but it was just, I'll never do that. And I think that's so important today in sponsorship is obviously if you're going in for the hard kill and not thinking first about like, what is this business really going through, that then you're not going to be successful in the long term, and you're not going to be able to create a partnership where people, those sponsors want to come back to you. And even in a community where maybe they're not even a sponsor of yours, but they're going to talk highly of you because you let them know about the PPP program when nobody else kind of did. So I love that. That's really clutch strategy there. Kind of within that, for your sponsors, I guess just overall high level, what was the kind of general sentiment when the games kind of ended, and how did your sponsors kind of respond to games just ending? And just the uncertainty of whether games would come back or when they would come back.
Yeah, I think one thing we've learned through the pandemic is we're all in this together, right? Like there's not a person on earth that this hasn't affected. So our partners were great and they understood the situation we were in. And it goes back to relationships, right? I think our team's done a good job of building that trust. And we said, hey, we can't do XYZ, but give us some time to figure out what we can do. And then when we're ready, we have this plan to put in place. So that really helped us is just working with them and letting them know that we're not forgetting about things. We understand we still have parts of the partnership to deliver on. Just give us some time to figure out A, what that restart looks like, and B, where we can fit you in, all with your goals and objectives in mind. And that's really helped us get through this and really to the launch today.
Yeah, no, and it's been a crazy journey. I mean, as we were talking beforehand, we're just happy to get some sort of sports back and some excitement back. With this restart, obviously, I think the biggest thing is give or take, we've never had such a hard restart in such a different time, in such a different kind of place where, not in our stadiums, not our fans aren't there. What kind of strategies or, I guess, foundations did you look at during the restart to say, hey, here's what we're really going to focus on for our partners?
Yeah, I think for us, it was more just going back to, what our partners' objectives were, and not necessarily recreating the wheel, but reimagining what we can do. One cool initiative that we did was we did like a thank you grads program, and we were able to involve some of our education partners and partners who wanted to reach that younger demographic. So our team's done a good job of just not reinventing or recreating objectives because of where we're at, but just talking with our partners and understanding, okay, we can't do this now, but what would you like to see? What do you want to do to create that same effect?
Yeah. Have partners been pretty, positive toward that? I mean, obviously you mentioned, hey, we're all in this together. I'm sure a lot of your long-term partners are like, I totally get what you've been going through, but has that strategy kind of worked overall of within the restart kind of activation, again, in games that aren't in our buildings and aren't usually the activations we're running?
Yeah, I think, our partners are as excited as we are to get back to hockey and get back to being involved. So they've been really on board with the restart and figuring out how they can get back into the conversation. We've seen, I don't know if you've seen some of the TV numbers that front office reported on a few days ago, but like MLB had its highest rated regular season game in like 9 years, I think. So I think that excitement's there, and everybody sees the value in getting involved. And then we'll see, the broadcast has changed a little bit, but we're still able to integrate partners into the broadcast and digital and social, as I mentioned. So yeah, they're on board, and I think they're just as excited as we are to finally get back to hockey and some type of normalcy.
Yeah. Now, kind of shifting a little bit toward, renewals versus new business. Have you all kind of had a strategy toward, your current partners or new partners? I mean, obviously, the major sentiment is it's a tough time to go get new partners. Has that kind of been in your strategy wheelhouse, and how have you kind of thought about that process?
Yeah, so I know our development team, like as we've talked about, there's those emerging categories, if you will, that our new business team is looking at. I've seen a bunch of stuff recently, especially around like the betting and the I guess free to play models that are coming online. So our new business team is always looking for new opportunities that are opening up. And then from our current partners, I think it's just working with them and talking through, where we're at today, what next season looks like, and what the future looks like. For me, it's all about, let's not lose our train of thought on the long-term vision of our partnership, because I'm a perpetual optimist. Like, we'll get through this, right? So my goal has been, let's not lose sight of what we would have tried to accomplish on a 2, 3, 4, 5 year plan, just to make sure we figure out something in the short term. So it's having that conversation of, what can we do to get through the short term, but not lose the overall essence of the partnership and the long-term vision.
Yeah. Now, and this is intriguing too, just the way you all are set up with Vinnick. I mean, you have multiple properties, multiple assets across the board. I would imagine some have been maybe hurt a little bit more than others. But, overall, does it help kind of having multiple assets and teams to be able to, go to your partners with, as opposed to a team that just has one single, hey, here's a hockey team, that's all we kind of sell?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's one of the biggest benefits and parts of the job that I enjoy, is we're not just a singular property. So we're the Tampa Bay Lightning. We represent University of South Florida athletics. And 2 years ago, we started our own over-the-top network called the Identity Tampa Bay, which it's a digital, think of it as like a digital newspaper, if you will. It's all lifestyle content, video, written, that covers what's going on in Tampa Bay, not necessarily sports related, but, the hottest trends, newest restaurants. So that allows us to go out to partners and, whereas before, if you're reaching out as a singular property and someone doesn't match that demographic, it might not be a fit. But we have ways to, have that conversation about our overall reach and be able to reach different demographics. That makes us pretty unique.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's just, not to throw a sports term in there, but it's just more at bats, right? Hey, hockey's not your jam. Great, we have this OTT service. We have University of South Florida. Does that, with all the, I'd imagine the OTT service is a nice, with all the turmoil of not knowing when schedules are coming out and things like that, I could imagine that new OTT service is a nice, for lack of a better term, stable asset that, is always running. You're still getting viewers, and it's something that maybe you can hold partners onto, until some more clarity comes within the season.
Yeah, the cool thing about the OTT is we can get really creative with the concepts and the ideas on that platform. Digital lasts forever and is 24/7. So some things we might not be able to do on the Lightning or the USF side, we can do on the Identity. We've taken some concepts too that were supposed to be for like the pre-pandemic world and brought them into the post-pandemic world that have provided the same, if not more, value for our partners. So it's a really cool opportunity for us, and there are some brands there that sports night might not be the right fit, but lifestyle and that type of content is. So it always allows us to have that conversation of, okay, this might not work, but what about this?
Yeah. Now, kind of moving forward, and this is was big in the Northwest, and we work with a lot of Seattle teams. But new NHL team. I thought the Vegas Golden Knights did an amazing job with their branding when they launched, and then was just blown away with the Seattle Kraken, which in the sponsorship world, of course, they got Kraken rum as Kraken best served on ice, which is a perfect sync up there. So good job by that partnership team. But, just for the league overall, I'd be curious on your thoughts just to their launch and if at all, it's kind of affected just the excitement within the league for you all.
Yeah, I think for the NHL, it's awesome. I think the term "rising tides raise all ships" is really true in this instance. The more reach we can have and the more eyeballs we can have on the sport of hockey, the better. It shows the strength and the growth of hockey, which in my opinion is the number one sport to watch live. And it's exciting because the CEO there, Todd Leiweke, was the CEO of the Lightning when I was interning. Okay. And just to see what he'd been able to do to the Lightning in his tenure with us, and what I know he can do and what he's going to do out there. You think about some of the things they've done. They're doing a massive overhaul to the arena. The naming rights with Amazon was first of its kind, going to more of that CSR initiative. So I'm expecting big things out there. And again, it's a great, while we're not directly affected by it, I think just the buzz around hockey and the fact that our league continues to grow is really exciting. And some of the artwork and I don't know if you saw the hype video they used to launch. Clearly, there's going to be a focus on video production, content, game presentation that I could just feel from that video. It got the hairs on the back of my neck standing up, and jerseys are pretty sweet too.
Yeah, I lived in Pittsburgh for a while, so I kind of became a de facto Pittsburgh Penguins fan. Whenever I live somewhere, I'll pick up a team that's not in a sport that I usually watch. Grew up in the Bay Area, but never went to San Jose Sharks games. If anybody's watching, because the San Jose Sharks fan or part of the team, sorry, but I will say, just the way that they captured the city within that. I mean, if I was from Seattle, and again, we do a lot of work there, so working with the Storm and the Sounders, and I've definitely been up there in those fan bases. Just encapsulated what Seattle is. Their logo encapsulates it. The way they launched it encapsulates, and that city is sports absolutely nuts. So I'm massively excited. I'm hoping that there's a similar effect that Vegas had, and I think you're totally right. Just within the NHL, one, it's a new market that overall the NHL can grab, and to be honest, that puts more viewers on when they play the Lightning, and puts more emphasis on kind of your team and the the brands and things when it's away games that they're watching. But I think there's definitely a wrong way to do launches, and there's a right way, and there's many times it's like, hey, you can't just follow a playbook. You kind of have to go with your gut. I think they just nailed it kind of with that in growing there. So I'm excited for that. And I think again, rising tide raises all ships. It's just good for the league. It's an exciting piece that they're able to kind of add to it, and a new fan base to tap into, which is exciting. And again, I'm only 3 hours away, so I will be attending some cracking games on that side as well.
I'll be curious to see what that mascot looks like. I don't know if they're going to go with like the scary look, or I don't know if you can really turn a Kraken into a cute, cuddly animal, but we'll have to see.
That's a really good point. I didn't even think about that, and you're totally right. Do you want it to be scary? Do you want it to be cute? I assume cute. My nephew, there's a college wood bat league here called the Portland Pickles. It's kind of just the local baseball team that is literally done in a city park. They just put fencing around it, and he, for whatever reason, is scared to death of Dylan Pickle, the mascot. I don't know why. So I'd imagine you wouldn't want that same effect with the very scary Kraken with the red eyes and all of that. But that's a great point. I didn't even think of that. If anybody's with the Seattle team, would love some feedback on on what you're thinking there. We went over your journey kind of just into sports biz. Obviously, and even thinking back to my journey, that's not going to be the same, right? I mean, it's with the current, situation of seasons canceled, furloughs happening. And, what I saw when I first jumped into sports business is, having those game day jobs that, to be honest, really suck because you're running around for, free or for very low wage in the most stressful environment, which is a sports game behind the scenes, to make sure things are running smoothly for the fans. For you, what kind of advice do you have for anybody trying to enter the sports business right now? You've just graduated from college, you're ready to get that first job, and then obviously this hit. Do you have any advice kind of for people jumping on and trying to get into the business and get that experience?
Yeah, I talked to the University of Tampa Sports Management Program a few months ago, and the same question came up. And I said first to them, I was like, you guys are going to be the ones telling us what to do when this is all said and done, because none of us who have jobs right now really had to go through that. I think what I'd be looking at is, okay, so if I can't get directly into the sports industry, how can I be involved and stay attuned? And what I'm big on transferable skills, right? Like, I'm a big believer if you can learn certain traits, whether it's in tech or in sports, you can transfer over those skills. If it's analytics, if it's sales, there's a lot of things you can do where it might not be the job you ultimately want, but you can then go into that next interview saying, well, I haven't done it for a sports team, but I've done XYZ that then translate over to, which would make me a good candidate for the job. So I think both, if you're looking for new jobs, find that those transferable skills, and then also you got to be, I like to call it sharpening the axe, just staying in tune with what's going on in the industry. Reading, I'm a big reader, big podcast listener, just continuing to consume and learn as much as you can, and just build up your tool belt, right? That way, when the job market does start to get back to where it was pre-pandemic, you'll be well equipped to go back and have that story to tell. I think resiliency, right, is what people will be looking for too. Is if I'm job market's going to be very tight. There's a lot of people looking for jobs, and so that would supply and demand, right? The contestant pool is going to be a lot stronger too. So if I was a hiring manager, I'd be looking at, okay, well, what did you do with your time to get yourself ready? So rather than sitting back, be proactive and have conversations with people. LinkedIn is by far and away, at least for me, the most powerful tool. And I think in our industry specifically, people are willing to chat and willing to help. So it's about being proactive, reaching out to people and getting your name out there, even if it's an informational interview, just to understand our industry better.
Yeah, I gave some advice that even I was impressed with. You know when you give some advice and you're just like, wow, that was really good advice. And not to pat myself on the back, but somebody had reached out and they just said, hey, look, I want to get into merchandising and sports. And I was just like, you know what you should do is you should go to like Goodwill's or wherever, find sports items and sell them on eBay. Nothing's going to be more powerful than walking into that meeting and saying, I did $10,000 a month by selling old bobbleheads and cups and, figures on eBay. Did you know that this is a real thing, your eBay SEO, but just how you name things. Did you know that, this is how I would name this? And they were just like, wow, that's an easy thing I can do right now and make money without having to break in. I was like, yeah, it's one of the pieces for you. I mean, on the sponsorship side, I'm intrigued to hear your answer. Obviously sponsorship's going more digital. So, that's the value there is key, but also, there's still that salesmanship side of it. If somebody's kind of, hey, I want to get into sponsorship, it's not going to be this year. Would you push toward a digital kind of focus and expertise, or more of the sales relationship based type? If you had to make a bet between the two and you were kind of coming out of college.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I was actually going to frame the same question to you, like what's a fad versus what's a future, just the future. Digital's the way to go. Like if I'm someone looking to get into sponsorship, or just to find a new job in general, I would be, especially if I'm younger, I would try to position myself as, okay, well, I'm the master of TikTok. I'm the master of Snapchat. These platforms that are underutilized and are monetizable. How can I provide value to a team and show them that I understand a platform that people on their team might not know how to monetize or even interact with? I'll be frank with you. I'm not big on social media other than from a professional perspective. I've seen TikTok, I've been on it, but if you were to tell me the best way to monetize it, I don't know the answer. So I think I don't know if there will ever be a strictly digital role, at least on the team side of things. But then you look at some of these media companies that are growing at a crazy rate, and they're hiring right now. So there's definitely that need, and that the good thing about digital, right, is it's impressionable and it's trackable, and that's numbers, especially when things aren't going as well, are really important to marketers. But I always think on the team side, there's going to be that blend of, the bigger, the higher level assets like IP, your in-arena signage, but it's also having that understanding of how digital ties into the larger conversation and the larger goal of what the partner is trying to achieve.
Yeah, and I was telling somebody this the other day as well. Is like, I asked them like, how often are you on Snapchat? And they were like, well, every day. That's what I use. That's what my generation uses. Okay, cool. From what I've seen, most teams don't do an amazing job on Snapchat. They do a good job. I'll give a shout out to the Columbus crew. They do an amazing job with their Snapchat and their content and how they get people to interact. But I just kind of said, look, you might not know sports, but you know how to reach you on Snapchat. And that's something that's massively valuable. If you can harness that, if you can bring that to a team. And I have and I'll be interested for your take on this in sponsorship. I think that there should be, account relationship based sales. And then you should almost have an entire digital team where, like in your sponsorship department, there's the YouTube person. And their only job is to make money and monetize on YouTube. And then there should be a Snapchat person, and their only job is to monetize on Snapchat. And then a Twitter person and a Facebook person. Obviously, that's a ton of people to kind of add to your sponsorship. But if you just look at the ways people are monetizing, I saw a kid. He goes to these parks in Florida where there's D1, high school players, and just films these almost like backyard brawl version of one-on-ones, where literally it's a DB and a receiver, and this guy's going to Clemson and this guy's going to South Carolina, and they just do a one-on-one with a quarterback in a park, and he gets 2 million hits per video. I mean, this kid is literally just filming on his phone, and he knows just how YouTube works to get those views. Do you think in a modern sponsorship world, in really ad world, do you think we'll get there to where we walk into an office and it's like, hey, this partner wants YouTube, great, go talk to Craig or Molly, he or she is the YouTube person to be able to understand that?
Yeah, so that gets into the conversation of specialist versus generalist. I think if I was looking at it, if I was running my own department, I would want my team well versed enough to be able to have conversations across the entire landscape. I think the challenge with that is there's partners who want that as part of their partnership, and we bake it into the overall asset mix. But I don't know how it would work if you just tell one guy, right, okay, all you're going to do is focus on YouTube, Snapchat, TikTok, anything digital. I think there might be some blending, and then it also comes back to an inventory. I could see an inventory issue with that, right? Like there's a vast reach on social, but there's still a limited reach. But I don't know. We'll have to see, I guess.
And it's one of those things where it's like you never know until that team crazily does this. Like when the Falcons, brought their concession stands down to $2 a hot dog, and everybody was like, "You're crazy! You're going to lose money," and they actually made more money. I'm sure at one point they were sitting there just like, maybe this is a bad idea. Maybe we shouldn't do this. So with all of that, I always throw it back, and I guess I kind of jumped in on one of the questions to ask you, but any questions for me just on the sponsorship landscape that you have?
Yeah, so I kind of teased earlier. What as we're going through this pandemic, what's in your opinion, what's fad and what's future? So what are some things that you're seeing now that it might not stick in the long term, and what are some things that you're seeing now that will be commonplace in partnerships that might not have been before?
Yeah, I think the fad piece is just like the going for the viral tweet or content, right? And teams don't just, I haven't seen hey, teams are only doing this, but doing seeing that one of the posts of like, retweet or comment, and then having the images above it, right? Will that get you some likes? Yes. Will that get you, do you want to sponsor that post? Maybe, right? I think those are the pieces of thinking short term that are going to be kind of the fad pieces here. I think the big thing though is long term is, one, I think a lot of teams don't understand what they have with their digital reach and how powerful it is, and honestly how much they should be charging for it. I think athletes have totally figured this out, because LeBron James for one Instagram post is $250,000. And that's definitely not the case, with our assets yet. We don't have as much reach as LeBron does, but, we have a large reach. So I think the big foundations coming out of this will be understanding, Rich always puts it very well, of, not underselling your digital assets, understanding that you're not selling signage and, by the way, throwing in some promoted tweets, understanding that those tweets, if done right, might be as valuable. And then I think just good content, right? good content leads to the ability to post on all platforms. So people are saying that TikTok is a fad. Well, technically TikTok is just short form video. There's going to be something that comes out in short form video, right? I mean, Snapchat is perfect for short form video, Instagram stories. So I think if you're able to just focus in on, okay, here are the, pieces of base. We're going to have great content that reaches people, behind the scenes stories, sponsorable assets, and not just say, hey, we need a TikTok account. Let's just make some videos that looks like everyone else's. I think that's the team that's really going to be able to build an asset base, as opposed to, again, chasing virality, which never works. I mean, it's like, if you ask people whose posts have gone viral, they'll tell you that they did 100 posts before that didn't go viral. And it just happened out of circumstance that they had, good content at the right time and it got picked up by the right person. So I think, the key thing is, and I've seen teams and even just brands try and do this, of just like, we need that viral thing that's just going to take off and get us 1 million views. Obviously, the reach algorithm on TikTok, it's way easier to get 1 million views. But I think focusing on the content and then the platform is going to be key, kind of moving forward, especially on the digital side.
Yeah, it's I think for me, like if I had my crystal ball, or if I could design and there were no rules, I think the EPL does this, but it's how would teams be able to better tap into the personalities of their players.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen, but we have a forward. His name's Alex Killorn, and he is, for lack of better, he's just a bro, right? Like he's a really cool, down to earth guy, and he came up with this concept called Doc Talk. I don't know if you ended up seeing it or not.
I feel like I have. I feel like that name is popping out familiar.
So he, what he would do is he would hop on a jet ski and just go around Tampa Bay and interview different teammates, different celebrities in the Tampa Bay area. It got so big that we ended up selling his like Doc Talk T-shirt, and the proceeds went back to charity. We raised five figures in charitable donations through it, and then it got so big that he ended up having Kenan Thompson, who from Saturday Night Live, he was the final host. So I think there's a really big opportunity there to figure out what that medium is, to be able to take players, the great personalities that they are, and that's what people really love to see, right? Is that all the behind the scenes stuff, whether it's in the locker room or what they're doing on their off day, and take our partners and be able to combine that. If I could kind of recreate the sports world, I'd love to be at that intersection, because then you're taking the strength of the brand, you're taking the strength of the individual, putting them together. That would be if I could do it all, that's what I would do.
And that's so clutch and key strategy wise, just because you're basically tapping into an influencer. What I've always wondered is, for Hard Knocks, every year there's one player that everybody gravitates towards. And if I was an NFL team and Hard Knocks were coming sort of to my city, what I would do is I would, based on data, figure out who the player they're talking about is. Hopefully they make the team, right? Because nothing's worse when there's that personality that ends up not making the team, and then just building a show around their entire season, right? And just that, because they're going to build that following. I mean, there's that, and then 100% steal this if it works for you and the Lightning, but I'm massively intrigued with how NPR, I don't know have you ever seen Tiny Desk concerts, that the YouTube show they have?
No.
So basically in their office, and whoever thought of this is genius. In their office, I assume it's when major acts come to DC, they basically turn their a desk area into, they mic it all up and they film it, and they call it Tiny Desk concerts. And literally it's like Big Boy, Lizzo was like the most watched. It's a ton of artists up and coming, not up and coming, bring the whole band in. Those videos get like millions of views for each one, and gets NPR's name out there. I would argue it's one of the most probably the most consumed media assets they have. And think about the execution. You just throw some mics up, get a decent camera, you obviously have to pay, you have to pay Lizzo something to come in probably. They bring all their staff in to come watch it. Imagine a hockey team doing that in a penalty box, like trying to throw up a concert in a penalty box with the major act coming to town. And again, it's like if for some crazy reason, you could get, TI to come do that. The amount of views you'll get for whatever your hockey team is based on TI doing that is huge. So I think you're totally right. That's a super key hack that a lot of teams can utilize, because again, it plays off of that, that player's following, and somebody might watch it. Like literally, I found out about Tiny Desk concerts. I think I was like searching for like Macklemore on YouTube just to find a playlist, and that's the first thing that popped up, and I was like, "What is this? This is crazy!" Right? Next thing you know, I'm watching all the NPR thing. Next thing you know, I'm listening to NPR in the car because that kind of turned me on to just their content. So I think you're totally right. I think that's a key piece, a foundational piece of, again, not saying like, "Hey, we need to find this crazy hack thing to do." It's just how authentically can we grab our players, put them in positions to tell their stories, whether it's off the ice. Like your example, just on a jet ski, or whether it's actually professionally on the ice, and really pull those players in.
Yeah, for sure. Did you trademark that idea in the penalty box? We might have to steal that.
I didn't. I'll tell you, I'm trying to get the Portland Winterhawks to do it. The tough thing comes with, you'd have to pay the artist, and you'd have to make a pretty big bet that you'd get the views and monetization to be able to pay the artist to do that. So there's always a snag with these ideas financially, and you're just like, well, we could do this big thing, but will it actually pencil out? So no, I haven't trademarked it. If there's any hockey teams watching, and you see that and you execute it and you steal it, I'll be the first person to be super excited. You won't be, getting angry tweets at me for stealing my idea, but no, I think.
I'll give you $1 million if we can get Drake in our penalty box.
That'd be very interesting to see if he would pop in. And then would he wear a Lightning or a Maple Leaf jersey? That would be the fun piece of that.
So I could be wrong, but I do think last time he performed in Tampa, he was wearing a Lightning jersey on stage. Nice. So we already have our gear, so he might as well just throw that on again.
Might as well just if you could pull that off, you would get crazy, especially with Drake being from Canada and obviously, hockey, a very Canadian sport. That would just be, the views there would be insane. Again, it just comes down to like how much it would cost to actually get Drake into your penalty box and doing that. So I know you got to go just because it's crazy day today with the exhibition. But thanks so much, Nate, for jumping on. Really appreciate it. If there's a best way to get a hold of you or in touch with you or the Lightning, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, for sure. I'm really active on LinkedIn, so just search Nate Black, Vinnick Sports Group, and happy to reach out, connect, and talk a little bit more.
Awesome. Sounds great. Thanks so much, Nate, and thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll definitely be trying to, get this going, and we'll definitely have you back on, Nate, probably at the end of this thing, the restart, get you back on and say, hey, here's what we found out with all the restarts, and here's where we were absolutely right, and here's where we're absolutely wrong. And, hopefully the rights are a lot more than the wrongs. But again, thanks so much for the time. Really appreciate it.
All right, Nick. Good talking to you, man.
Yeah. See ya.
See ya.